Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another preparedness testimonies. And what these are just different stories and tips that people send to me so that I can read them to all of you. We are on part number 15. Now, if you have your own preparedness testimonies or even some tips that you find to be very helpful to you, please send those to me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com with the title Preparedness Testimonies, and I will drop that in the appropriate folder to be read in a later video. So let's get to these. After seeing the devastation in Appalachia, it got me thinking about my own pantry since it's in the basement, and an extended power outage could put that pantry at risk from water if the sump pump were to quit working. Thinking maybe I should put together some food in another location, but I had concerns about rodents. I took a metal 30-gallon garbage can that had never had garbage in it. It was used for dog food at one time, and found a tote that fit into the can for the food and figured I'd put a few other things in it too. So that was her tip, and I think that's a really great idea. So if you're concerned about rodents, if that's like a really big issue and you're wanting to store grains, skip the plastic buckets and go with some galvanized garbage cans. That's going to be your best bet. And of course, making sure they have very tight fitting lid or the ability to at least put a bungee cord over them and help hold that lid in place. Because rodents can chew through plastic. If they're tenacious enough, they'll chew through some of the thickest plastic to get to the food that's in that container. Okay, next one. This one's a little longer because there's several different parts to it. In 2004, I moved in with and became the caregiver to my elderly mother and father. They lived in a bad neighborhood. My mother died 2 years later of cancer. I became interested in prepping, but a garden in that neighborhood seemed strange. However, a few neighbors had them. In 2008, I told my father I was prepping and that if things got really bad, we may have to bug out someday. He said he would not leave or move under any circumstances. He said that if a crisis happened in the neighborhood that was that bad, we would not make it out of the neighborhood alive. All I could do was garden, prepare, and trust. During my prepping, I ordered antibiotics from a veterinarian lab in California. My relatives, including my father, told me it was foolish. Well, about 6 months later, my father became weak and was having difficulty walking, but refused to visit a doctor. I called a relative who is a doctor. They told me it was probably a urinary tract infection. They prescribed an antibiotic that I had in the fridge from my preps. What do you know? My father agreed to try the antibiotic and completely recovered in just a few hours. This happened 3 more times over a 14-year period. I believe these antibiotics prolonged his life. Later on, 2 different occasions, I was called by 2 different nephews due to serious cuts they'd received at work. They were uninsured and could not afford doctor visits. I called my relative, the doctor, who told me what antibiotics to give them. I had the drugs in my preps and they did not get infections. Now they are all stocking their own medication. See, that's one of the things I keep talking about. Sometimes it's seeing the real life situations that that you're already practicing and you can do something for them or just tell them this great story about how something helped you because you had it on hand. Those are, I think, some of the best ways to get a message across rather than trying to hammer it into them and telling them what they should do. On one occasion, a neighbor knocked on the door and asked if we had any bread as he was hungry and could not get to a store. I filled 2 grocery bags of food from my preps for him. It's funny, my family doesn't think my prepping medicine or food is foolish anymore. And they are even willing to try my salves from my herbs. If someone had told me 20 years ago I would move in with my parents in a bad neighborhood, get a crazy idea to garden in a bad neighborhood, and prep, I would have thought they were crazy. But God has different plans than we do. My father passed 14 years later, but God took care of him, and I believe in my heart God provided the preps he knew my father, my nephews, and my neighbor would need. Motto to the story: if God lays it on your heart to prep, then prep. Very, very good testimony there. Okay, so next one. This is a simple thing I started doing around 2015 that helped us during the pandemic. I had watched a YouTube video about using flannel pieces to cut to your desired size to use instead of toilet paper. I wonder if that was one of my videos. In fact, I just had a new one come out on this too. My daughter had told me she did this with her youngest son's diapers, used a flannel diaper instead of disposable diapers. She cut them up once he was potty trained, put them in a container by the toilet paper to use as toilet paper. So I decided to do this because I hate paying so much for toilet paper. It really came in handy during the pandemic when it was hard to find toilet paper. You just use them, and I put them in a small garbage can with a lid. From there, I use a mesh zippered bag to throw them into the washer and dryer and reuse again. I still do this today. I'm of the old school, as we didn't have disposable diapers when my kids were babies, and we had to wash the poo out in the toilet by hand before we could wash them. Hope this can help someone else. So I'm going to link to my video I just redid in the description box down below about what I use, and I've been doing it for quite a number of years. Didn't fully switch over to using them entirely until 2020, but by that point I'd probably already been using them for at least 6 years just for the smaller jobs, and then made the full switch in 2020 since it was like, well, I might as well do it now. Even though we were well stocked on toilet paper, I thought, well, now's the time to put this into practice. And I haven't gone back since because it's so much better and it's so easy. And I also use cloth diapers with my babies, and this is far easier than that. So let me tell you, it's easy. So for those who want to save the money or just be prepared in case you can't get toilet paper, that's one of the several options you can have on hand. This is the last one, and this has a couple photos to go with it, which was also one of them in the thumbnail. And it's more of a tip, some ideas for you, so I thought I'd share this. This information is probably redundant, but I was so excited when I reached the point that I'm at now. I am on a limited budget, and what people say is true. Buy an extra can or two as you are able. So like if you're buying a can of soup, you're buying a can of green beans, you're buying a can of peaches, buy an extra one. If you have the extra money, buy an extra one or two each time. And you just slowly build your pantry that way. I discovered that the cardboard trays the stores have canned items in is also an excellent free way of storing cans on my shelves at home. I started out with 4 cans of 3 different items in each tray until I figured out what I use more of and would like extra stored up. Shelves don't have to be fancy expensive either. Since my cans are in cardboard trays, they balance beautifully on 2x4s. In my basement, I balance the boards on bricks. Not recommended on main levels due to the weight. My bottom storage area is tall enough for 5-gallon buckets. Next shelf for half-gallon jars, then the rest for smaller sizes. I have been loving the ability to shop my basement, especially since I have been laid off for the winter season. Plants in the pictures are my attempt at overwintering peppers. So I really, really appreciated that because it's, again, part of the reason for these preparedness testimonies is not just for people to share that how something got them through a difficult time, which is great. We want lots and lots of that, or their tips, but how they got to where they are and didn't have to break the bank to do that, because a lot of people who first consider this or see other people doing it, typically they're seeing people who've already been doing it for a while and assume they just had all this money, they ran out and bought all this stuff. No, it's, for most people, it's a slow process of building and building and building. Just spending $1 or $2 extra a week or even a month just to get more food put up, and then branch out from there as is needed and according to each person and each family's need. So again, if you'd like to share your testimony, that email address, raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. Title it Preparedness Testimonies, and make sure that's all that's in there, so that, because I just drop them in there. I usually don't even read them. I just drop it into the folder. If you have something else you want to send me, send it as a separate email. And then down the road, I'll be reading that. It could be a few months before I get to it, but because I do have other videos I'm doing as well. But anyway, yeah, we love your testimonies and love hearing more of these kinds of tips and stories. So any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, put them in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.